in the plant medicine. I want to introduce Michelle Lee, who is the author of Working the Roots. She is an artist, an educator, mother, and a community supporter. As a matter of fact, that's how I met Michelle, supporting our Freedom Farmers Market in Oakland in 2012. She was very instrumental in helping us pass some of those hurdles that we had to get through in order to open our market. So without further ado, I'm going to stop talking. I'll come back at the end of the presentation and say a little bit more, but I want to introduce Michelle Lee, who is going to introduce our other panelists tonight. Take it from here, Michelle.
Thank you, Dr. Gail. And I want to take this time to thank Farms to Grow and Sister Elaine, and also the ancestors and elders who are with us, and let the portals and the dimensions open up so that their energy and their wisdom can continue to guide us. Ashe and Aho. I want to welcome everyone today. My name is Michelle Elizabeth Lee. I'm author of the book, Working the Roots, over 400 years, still happening. That's why I said over 400 years of traditional African-American healing. All of the things that our ancestors and elders taught us in order to survive this era here of colonization and slavery and rising up as the phoenix, as we always do. I am honored and feel it's such a gift to moderate this panel of wise earth mothers. I have learned so much from them, and their words of wisdom and guidance has really calmed and healed my energy. They are the holders of our traditions. They pass down the ancestral wisdom that has allowed us to survive and persevere all of these years. They kind of like have a toolbox. So we'll be engaging in conversation with them so that they can open up that box and share some of their strategies and remedies and their wisdom with us. I'd like to introduce to you Sister Melva Mia Burns, who is a wise elder. I have my notes over here, so my head's gonna turn this way. She is a seed saver, a medicine maker. She is expert of all things solar, harnessing the powerful energy of our Father, Brother, Sun for cooking and heating, of preserving and canning, of gardening. She birthed an earth man, and I'd like to know more about that. She is a scroller, which is usually a tradition for men. And she's collects roots, barks, and berries and knows how to use them for healing. She also was taught to sun kiss and how that also heals our body. She has a lot of depthful wisdom that I am excited to learn more about. So I'd like to introduce Melva. And Melva, Sister Melva, would you like to say some things about yourself and introduce yourself to the audience, please?
First, thank you, Dr. Gail. Thank you, Elaine. And thank all the ancestors that are before us and right here with us today. Assalamu alaikum to all of us, peace and blessings. One thing I can say, Earthman is my dad's name.
Okay.
That is a family name that has been handed down to the men in our family. So for me, I've been connected to the earth before I was even here, from grands and greats. They taught me to be a stewardess for the earth. And being that I was taught how to go and pick certain things and bring it back in and produce medicine. And in producing the medicine, still do it. I have handed it down to great nephews, daughters, cousins. And you know, I have folks that will call me, what you have? I have this going on. And, you know, I just tell them, because as an elder, you don't want to be caught not handing down your gifts that can help somebody continue. You don't want to be. So with all the youngins coming up now, you have to give it to them for them to survive. You have to show them, and you got to make it fun. That is one thing you have to do. You have to make it fun. Because when you make it fun, they'll always remember. Sure, it's going to taste nasty. God's medicine spoon is not always tasty. Not always tasty. But I will tell you this, it sure enough works.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
works.
Thank you, Sister Melva. Can you tell us a little bit about where the land, the region of planet Earth that you were raised in and where your ancestors come from?
Yes, I can. Was raised in San Francisco. Had some summers sent back to the South. My dad's people are from Texas and all back there. My mom's is Kansas City, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and places like that.
Mhm.
Oh, and my mom was born in Utah
Okay.
on a reservation.
Right
So
on.
for me, I have a diverse, I have medicines from both sides.
Call that strong medicine. Super
That's some
strong.
good circling. That's some of that complete circle.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
when you get it from both sides. And I don't know which one of us medicine women was talking about when a child is born, the eldest will come and put a silver dollar on the stomach,
Mm-hmm.
then put a belly band around that. And for the mother, she had to be girded up,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you had to feed the child for till they were 2 years old. These are things that need to be handed down.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And we'll get back to that more because I know my grandmother did that. My grandmothers put the silver dollar over the belly button and reclaimed the uterus by girding you up.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. And now I'm going to go on to Sister Iyalode Kinney, who is a wise earth mother who has belonged to the land all of her life since she was able to crawl and walk as a little one. She would learn, and she learned how to just instinctively talk to the medicines and never stopped. She started sampling plants, the plant spirit medicine, getting that energy in her and having it commune with her cells, which even fortified that connection even more. All of her ancestral wisdom has been passed on down to her by her grandmothers and grandfathers. Her people are from Oklahoma and Kansas City, Texas, Africa, the Virgin Islands. They belong to the land and they come from the land. Sister Iyalode Kinney, could you introduce yourself in your own words to the audience and give us some wisdom?
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Earth Mother Iyalode, and I've been a medicine woman since I was, well, all my life, but I really noticed it when I was 3. My mother wasn't a great cook. In fact, she was a pitiful cook, and that caused me to go out and search. I would hear the plants, I would actually hear them, and I would go out and search for them, and they would be there, whatever I was looking for, whether my stomach was hurting, I would look for I didn't know what I was looking for, but when I found it, I knew what it was. Mints for my stomach, stinging nettle for what was stinging nettle for? It didn't hurt me, but it did something to me to make me realize, okay, let me respect this plant. Different plants did things to me, and we didn't have the internet then, so I write things down, try to write, take a picture of the plant as much as I can, and by the time I could go to the library by myself, I was dead on the point. It was remarkable, just remarkable. And I was afraid to tell my grandmother about it because I just was afraid. But one day I told her, and she says, "Well, I knew you were a medicine girl." And she started guiding me. She said, "Oh, my little medicine girl." And it just went on and on from there. And I would go, San Francisco used to be a wild place. I mean, there was quicksand in the on Alameda. I would go and try to make myself immersion. And of course it didn't work like in the movies, but I tried. There were wild spaces in um over there in Marin County. There were wild spaces everywhere in the city, and that's where I spent most of my time because I was mostly a loner. So I didn't really, deal with people because they would have thought I was crazy with my plants and stuff. And I was growing stuff, and it was just wonderful. I'm thinking about that now, and I wish I was back there. That was such a good time. We have lost all that now, and I'm trying to keep it. I'm trying to keep
Mhm.
it going, you know?
Yes, and when you talk about those wild spaces, well, we lost all of it a lot because of development, because
Exactly.
constant unregulated development and expansion. But when you went to those wild spaces, what kind of medicines did you find there?
Oh, stinging nettle, comfrey, um, stinging nettle, comfrey, um, a lot of wild weeds that are edible. Wild
Like
weeds,
dandelion and
yeah,
plantain?
dandelion,
Yes.
like plantain, stuff like
Mhm.
that. What can I say? Uh, just a lot. I can't think right now. A
Yeah,
lot of
it'll come
sometimes.
back to you as we're in the question phase. It'll come back to you, and you can just pivot and say, "Oh, I remember,"
Yeah,
because we're
yeah.
dislodging. We're dislodging
Oh,
that information.
chamomile, wild chamomile.
Oh, wow,
Yes, I
nice.
have some of that now. Wild chamomile is the best. German wild chamomile is
Hmm.
one, stuff like that. Calendula that comes from Egypt, all the way.
Yes,
Yeah, so stuff like that. That's wild. It's still wild in places.
yes,
Yeah.
beautiful. Right on. Thank you, Sister Ialode. And now for our final wise Earth woman today is Sister Dorothy Barker, coming to us directly from the wonderful fertile land of North Carolina that holds so much history for our people, for the African peoples this diaspora and the indigenous people. She is from there. Her ancestors are from there way back. She's from northeastern North Carolina, right on the Virginia border. She comes from a family of healers and also farmers. And her people at one point had 300 to 200 acres of farmland, which is not uncommon for our people back in the day. Unfortunately, some of the land was stolen, like it was for many of our peoples, and they still have about 20 acres of land, which she farms. Back in their heyday, her family was the largest Black dairy farmer in North Carolina. She brings a lot of wisdom that she got directly from her grandmother. Her grandmother taught her and would take her out in the woods and show her the medicines and how to use them. She has a lot of wisdom from there, as well as a lot of strategies. Well, I don't know if you can have strategies to overcome the constant racism and fabric of racism within this country, but definitely words of strength that we can carry on throughout today to deal with those issues. So, Sister Dorothy Barker, can you say a few words about yourself, please, and your peoples? She's on mute.
Okay.
Okay.
Unmuted now?
Yes. Oh, there
Okay.
you are.
Okay. Yes. Hello, everyone. I was raised in rural Wake County, North Carolina by my grandparents. I was the first grandchild. And I thank God for grandma because later on when my mother remarried and she had a child, was from New York. And I said, everybody would say you're different as night and day. And I said, but that's because of the love and the hands that I had of my grandmother. I grew up as one of her children, not as a grandchild. And so I learned from, I always was anemic and cold. So the things that she gave me to make me feel warm or to feel viable or to alive, and I was a bedwetter until I guess about 8 years old. And so following her, as I always did, going out feeding the chickens and whatever like that, it was this little red bush. It was a bush with little red berries on it, very small berries on it. And she would say, you're only gonna pick 7 or 8 of those little berries. And so you're gonna chew those and that will stop you from peeing in the bed. I never knew what they were. And I don't even see those vines or bushes here in Granville County right now. And so it's just the remembrance of her with being with low blood, giving me the beef, wine, and iron. Those come out of a little bottle that you take to help build your blood. Going through the woods to find some rabbit tobacco. Just the different herbs that she used to cook with. And using those herbs to cook with, we didn't have a lot of store-bought stuff. And so just using the herbs that she cooked with made me that once I left home, I started looking to see if I could find those things which made my food taste better. How she always grew her sage bushes. And she said, in order to get sage to flourish, a lot of people will plant flowers or plant herbs in a tube. So you got to plant sage so it can blossom out, it'll grow. And I didn't think, I said, I'm going to try it. I'm going to plant some in a tube, in a tire tube. That sage died. So it's just the little things that she taught me and how to gather that sage and dry that sage on a brown paper bag or set it upstairs in the window, let the sun come through and dry that sage. And then when they kill hogs in November and December, while they're sitting by the fire, she's grinding that sage. It wasn't a grinder then, how she would grind that sage and she would add that sage to our pork sausage. Also, when they cook different dishes with beef, they would use sage in that. So it's just a lot of things that I learned from grandma. Just her telling me that about, what she said, in Hoover's time, that they ate every part of the chicken and every part of the hog, and how chicken feet became a meal. And they would take the chicken feet and the bony back and put potatoes or green peas or put something in, and well, it did make a meal. And then I always laughed about the little fly tip on the chicken wing that no one wanted. That's something that seemed like the elders, they would chew that or they would get the flat. Like I said, they never got a full chicken wing if they were working on a farm or whatever like that, or if the preacher came. I said, I always say, when I get grown, I would never have the fat preacher come and sit at the head of the table where my grandpa used to sit, and he get the breast and all the best pieces of chicken. And I always said that, when I get grown, I'm going to eat all the chicken breasts that I want, because it always went to the fat preacher. So, but it was just a pleasure of growing up, knowing that both were grandpa, we call Papa, was a master mason. Mama was an Eastern Star. I know a lot of people look down on it now. They said they don't like to, do you know what that means? You don't need to be this and you don't need to be that. But I look back over culture, and to me, having those secret meetings helped us to survive in America. So me today, I'm a farmer, dairy. My husband was in dairy for so many years. Now we grow fresh fruits and vegetables. I have my little herb garden. And what I do with those herbs is try to share them with the community for when they have problems with their salt intake, or if they have medical problems, I try to share that with the community. I am a grandmother. I have 5 children, 4 are living, 1 transitioned in 1951, and I have 10 grandbabies and 4 or 5 great grandbabies. So, and they all know Mama D is always there for them.
Beautiful. Thank you. Really strong upbringings and foundations that you all have. And the bony parts of the chicken, which my mother only loves, either the chicken wings or the backs, and she will chew it down and often accuses us of leaving too much meat on the chicken. It has a lot of nutrients in it. It has a lot of calcium and magnesium, so they knew what they were doing. Well, thank you, wise women of the earth. And now I want to segue into the questions that we have that will hopefully allow you to elaborate more on your wisdom and share some of the perseverance knowledge that has been passed down through the years. And the first question is, can you talk about the importance of what it means to reclaim our bond with the land as Africans in the diaspora and indigenous peoples, and how that reclamation is key to our survival and perseverance to this day?
Let's see how I did it.
Okay,
Sister
so-
Melva, did you, Sister Dort, Sister Ialode, you wanted to answer that?
The land, I've always worked on some land, and I claim it not as my, well, I don't know if I claim it as my own or whatever, I just work it, and it's like it's my own. I just work the land, I bring people together wherever I go, and it's amazing. I've never tripped on ownership. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I grew up that way. My grandfather had a music school. We sold the music school in Arkansas, came here and bought 4 houses in San Francisco with backyards. So maybe that's why, but I don't know. I just think it's important to work the land, to work it. I don't know if that's what you were trying to find out, but that's where I'm coming from. Because I have 5 gardens here in Richmond and gardens other places, and I just feel like I own them all.
It's kind of like you're a steward and a caretaker.
Exactly.
Yes. And that I guess to me, it sounds like what you're saying is your sense of groundation and identity and being wholeness comes from having that, touching the land, having that communion with the land.
Walking barefoot on it, laying on it. It's amazing. You know?
Thank you. Sister Melva, would you like to elaborate on that also, please?
Yes, I would.
Right on. Thank you.
For me, it's separating. And in separating, we're allowing all our ancestors to come and help us. I reground. That's where I ground myself on the earth. Now, when we separate, we will be self-sufficient, do for ourselves. We will retrain the young to train them to be stewards and stewardesses of the earth, of our blessed earth, teaching them that our blessed land heals us, takes care of us. We get our food, clothing, and shelter from it. So we need to teach them to care for it. But the first thing is to separate, so we can learn to do for ourselves and bring back, I mean, bring it back from the ancestors and give it to them, present it to them. It's our time to pass that baton.
So Sister Melva, so when you talk about, can you elaborate more when you say, well, first we have to separate, and then also, go ahead, and then I have another question.
Okay, right now we're depending on government entities and everything to take care of us or to do for us. It's time for us to do for self. And what I mean by that, all of us have trades. We need to unite. We need to build. We need to educate our own. Because these schools, no. We need to educate our children what we want our children to learn. In order for us to have a continuation of a community that we're proud of. Seriously. And I can't think of everything. Everything is just coming so fast. Gardening, farming. When I go out there, I have to sun kiss. And in order to sun kiss, you allow the sun to regenerate each one of, and warm and color each one of your organs. All your chakras get realigned. And when that gets realigned, you're able to move in a different direction. You have a different clarity on certain things. So if you can teach the little ones, in our family, I learned that from my mother's father's mother, who was blind as a bat. I do not know how she saw the colors, but I'm grateful, because if you look at a lot of families in the South, certain families, that first color you see is what they dress their children in. So we need to get back to that. You would see old pictures of families of little girls in all one color. It was a reason for that. That was the first color they saw. That was the healing of something that was in that family that needed to be healed. So those are the things why I say we need to separate, so that we can teach those things.
So what you're saying, and excuse me, folks, I put my video on stop because then my technology works better sometimes. So I'm still here. So what you're saying is that we need to separate from the dominant culture, this culture that's evolved through colonization and slavery, so that we can get back to ourselves and get back to that wisdom, unfettered from the interruption of what we know the dominant culture, overarching culture is putting on us through the media, through the schools and all of that. So we don't have that interruption. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying to you.
And also with regards, I agree, it's hard to really come to that center and that full knowledge when we continue to still be interrupted with the ideas of Western imperialism. And when you say sun kiss, what came to my mind, I imagine, now, are you going out there naked in your full bodysuit and
No,
letting the
ma'am.
sun
No,
kiss your
ma'am.
body?
No, I'm clothed
Mm-hmm.
and I go out there. I look up at the sun. I hold it for a few minutes. I turn away. I bow my head and give thanks. And in that, you will see the colors. You will see, depending on what do I call it? Where you are in grounding, you will either see the full, sometimes red, sometimes it's pure silver with purples coming. And when the purple comes, it's your crown chakra. It is your crown chakra.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on what color comes, that's the colors that are healing you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the same as notes in music.
Yes, it's all connected.
All of it is connected.
And so what you were saying earlier about in the South, how they would dress children in all the same colors, certain colors, those colors were used as healing colors also?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. This is the type of information that I love getting, that really helps to ground us and to let us know that we are not, we just need to remember, just like with permaculture and sustainability. My elders, I don't come to them with that because they look at me like this is the way we were doing it in Mississippi and Louisiana. You better get out of here with that stuff. So, it's within our DNA, it's within our history, maybe a generation or two removed. And so thank you so much for that wisdom. Now I'm going to move on to Sister Dorothy Barker, and audience, please, if you have any questions about what we're talking about now, go ahead and put it in the chat and we can segue to those questions also now. We don't have to necessarily wait towards the end. Okay, Sister Dorothy Barker, I'm going to reread the question again. I feel like I'm a Jeopardy host. Talk about the importance of what it means to reclaim our bond with the land as Africans in the diaspora and indigenous people, and how that reclamation is key to our survival and perseverance.
Okay, land is power. And we as a people are losing a lot of our land. And so therefore we are losing a lot of our power. We need to be able to pay our taxes. My ancestors always told me, you pay your tithes and offering and your just dues, and you got to pay your taxes. In order for us as a people, and all the new people that want to farm and want to own land or that has walked away from land, they saw that, they've lost that land, they've lost that power for a few $100s by not paying their taxes. And so we want to educate our people today to let them know that in order for you to have something, you got to put something out. And if you've got that land that your ancestors have worked so hard for, they fed you, they sent you to kindergarten and middle school and then to college, and then you're going to walk away and let someone else claim this land, claim this power. And if we lose all that, how can we feed ourselves? People don't understand that if we don't have a place to grow our own food, not only will we be a landless people, we'll be a starving, a food desert people, because we don't have any way to feed ourselves. And when our country can impose a coup and hold food over your head as power, we've lost a lot. So if these plots of land, if it was no more than a house and a few feet of land, or it was a house and an acre of land, you will be surprised at how much food you could feed your community. If you rotate your crops with your seasons, you could feed yourself. And so our young people need to learn that food is not Hardee's and McDonald's. It's not, definitely like, you can't have it your way because you go to Burger King. You're going to get what they give you. And some of that is it's not good for you. And so if you have land, try to grow you some food on it. Set your stake there that this is mine. I am proud of this. And we've got to teach our people not to just walk away and we're going north. And as we go north, people just scoop up our land. They scoop up our heritage. They scoop up our possibilities of just doing something for ourselves. And just having that land to step out on, even if it's dry and powdery like it was for the last month or so, that's your powder, that's your dust on your car, on your feet when you walk out on it. Or if it's rain, like it's been raining since yesterday evening and today, that's your feet, your footprints you're putting in the mud. And when you go to Africa, you're gonna put your feet in the mud. You're gonna leave your footprint there. And so we ought to have something over here that we can step outside and leave our footprint in and say, this is my footprint on my land. This is my power. And once you step out on that, as you're in Africa, you can feel the power coming up to your brain.
Yes.
And so you ought to think, okay, this is mine. And I will have something to leave my children. But the most important thing that you can leave to your children is the education, the fact about you need to own your own. Mm-hmm. You need to have something of your own. Once you rent, you're fueling someone else's fire. Mm-hmm. You're giving them more power. So that's my bond with the land, is keeping it so we can keep that power within that family, mm-hmm. within our communities. And then we can make sure that we do have a good, safe food that we grew. We know what's in that food. And if we can keep our little communities together, then you're going to keep those big factories and all the pollution coming into our little area. So you know that your water and the food that you grow is not a lot of chemical, it's not a lot of, your environment is safe. Your waterway is safe.
Yeah, I thank you for saying that and emphasizing the land, which is so important, and that we've lost so much of the land through policy genocide, through physical genocide, through enslavement, and all of the things that were unleashed to transfer the land, or to take the land and put it in the hands of the colonizers. I have a friend from the Lakota Nation who says, America is stolen land built by stolen hands. And many of our bloodlines, as we know, cross, even though they'd like to tell us they don't, but they do. We know because our ancestors have told us. And like I call myself now, I'm constantly changing the definition of myself. I'm an indigenous African descendant Mississippian. So from the Mississippi culture, everyone before me, 8 generations, comes from that whole region of Mississippi and Louisiana. So I'm claiming being a Mississippian now. What you said about getting the land is so important, and it's important for people, I think, to church up your monies and get some land, because they're not making any more of it. And who was it? Bill Gates just is now the largest farm owner or land owner in the United States. Right. That's something that you can always put up a tent on your property. You can always take a tiny home on your property. You can build community and do things. So thank you for those words of wisdom. Thank you for talking about rotating the crops, which elder ancestor George Washington Carver did so much of, defining permaculture and sustainability and farming practices that were healthy. And thank you for holding on to your family's land. And may the karma come around, whatever the energy was that took your 300 to 200 acres of land, may that karma come back around and grace and bless you that much more.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from the audience that you would like on this topic now that you'd like to ask these three elder earth women? And if not, then I'm just going to go on to the next question. And some of these, okay, great.
I was just, I'm wondering if we could clarify the sun kiss again. So to my understanding, you know, the practice is to go out and be in the sun and allow the sun to kind of like, you know, shine over you to regenerate, you know, your energy. And I just missed the part about the chakras and what that represents.
Unmute, Melva, can you unmute yourself? Sister Melva, you're muted. Sister Melva is muted. Sister Melva is muted. Can't hear you, Sister Melva. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Sister Melva, unmute yourself. Oh, sounds like she's talking some wonderful wisdom. Thank you.
Okay, I'm back.
Give thanks. Yes. We got to come up with the sign. What is our sign?
Oh, goodness. Okay, so for what I was saying, the sun heals your chakras. What it does is it warms it. If you ever driving in a car and you're sitting there and you know when you were young, you used to look out and look up at the sun. And you'd look up, you could only look for a few minutes and then you turn away. But you didn't realize when you closed your eyes or bowed your head, you would see colors, but you never paid attention to it. Well, now you can do that. You can look up, turn to the right, say a prayer, turn to the left and say a prayer, bow your head for your healing that is coming. And while that healing is coming, you're warming from the bottom of your feet to the top of your head. You're healing. And it's such a warm experience that right after that, when you're finished, you're looking for fabric. I look for fabric that I need to put on to make sure I'm representing the healing colors. Yes. Did I answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. It's so interesting because I wrote a poem some time ago called The Light Behind the Eyes. And I've always wondered, like, what's this light that I'm seeing? And so I felt like this really answered that in 100%.
Beautiful.
All praise is due to Allah. I'm grateful that I was able to help.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your question, Sister Arnella. Okay. The next question that we have, for our panelists, what are some healing traditions, some movements, waves of beings that you learned directly from your elders, ancestors that you still are using today and embody in your work? And I know you've already talked about some of that, but maybe you can talk about some of those that are most remarkable that stand out for you. And well, sister, if everyone's okay, since Sister Melva is still here, we can you can answer that question, and then we'll go on to Sister Iyalode.
Okay. For me, it was sun kissing. Also, it was the way my grandmother planted and the way her measurements and the way my brother did his math. He did something called chisholm block, which was the triangle. It's like this. It's a complete triangle. And when my grandmother would plant, that's how she planted. She would plant, here's one, and then you go over to this side. You make sure you get all of and it's like a pyramid. You're planting you planting like a pyramid. And so when I planted, I would do that. Then she had her measurements, which was the first notch of your finger, the knuckle of your finger, I don't know what you call this part, the second knuckle of your finger, or your whole hand. I still do that. Let's see what else we did. Because we fished, we would take our fish, bring it back home, get a container, gut it, put all that gut and scales and all that off in the water, and then go dig a hole and pour it off in the soil, and that was our fish emulsion. I mean, we didn't have to go buy it. We used that. So just basic things like that. We call it old school.
Yes. So I want to go back to the way that you planted and the measurements. And if anyone has any questions about that, please put them in the chat. So was it that she used her fingers and her hands and the knuckles to kind of figure out where she was going to dig the hole to put the seeds, the spacing for the seeds?
Yes, it's seed spacing.
Okay.
It's seed spacing. She would tell you if you're planting a squash, it has to be elbow length. Your whole elbow, you got to have a whole elbow before you plant another squash. And it's like, okay, you know, I can do my elbow now, but then my elbow was it wasn't big enough for it, but
it was little itty bitty elbow.
Little bitty elbows, but now you can do it. But see, that's the fun part you teach to a child.
Thank you. Now I get a message from Dr. Gail. The people in the chat, please unmute yourself and repeat your question.
Yes, greetings. This is Sister Majida. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Greetings, Sister Majida.
Yes, you know, I'm working, but I wanted to make sure that I experienced this wonderful celebration of our knowledge. I'm just so grateful to be present. I truly am. And I have a question. And, you know, with everything we're doing, you know, encouraging our youth to come back to what we know, you know, is the way we should be here in this time. I wanted to know, what is one thing you would say we could do to encourage our youth back to the land for life and healing? And I say that not so simply because we want them to love it like we love it and know it like we know it. So how do we go about doing that? Thank you.
Who's going to answer that? Can I answer?
Yes, please.
Okay, I deal with a lot of children. Most of them are the ages from 12 to 17. And when they first come to the site, they're like, where are we? What is this? What is she doing? What is, you know, they can't but within 4 weeks, they're done. They don't know what to do. They don't want to go in an office. They've changed their major. They've changed what they want to do in their lives. I have graduated. Well, I've helped 8 of my students graduate from Tuskegee Institute
Hmm.
thus far since 2012. I think that's pretty good. And
Wow.
they love, I just tell them about the soil and, you know, we make our own soil, we make our own compost. We don't have to buy anything. And they love that. So it's just being yourself, letting them see who you are, what's your energy with the earth, and it'll work. You know, it'll work. And I'm kind of crazy out there, so they love that.
That was a wonderful question. Thank you for that question, and thank you for that answer, Sister Iyalode, and for getting those young folks to Tuskegee.
Yeah,
So powerful, just seeing all of that, being in that environment where you see such independence and sustainability
yeah.
amongst our people.
One of my guys is in Brazil feeding the kids that the drug cartels don't deal with anymore. And they have 3 acres. I think we have 3 acres over there, and they just, everybody's working it, and it's wonderful.
Beautiful. And we can do the same here.
I know you can. That's what I'm trying to
yeah.
do.
People can church up their monies. You don't have to get along and be all in, you just have to set up clear parameters. But I tell people all the time, everybody wants some land, church up with some people, get your monies together. It's very easy to get undeveloped land because you can't, some places will give you a loan for it, but a lot of times the owner will carry, and it's a lot easier to qualify for it. And so we can continue to have those conversations more. Sister Melva, looks like you have
Yes,
something to add. Thank you,
also
Sister
add-
Iyalode.
You're welcome.
I would also like to add to the question from Majida, and it's good to hear from you. Children are like sponges,
Exactly.
and being like a sponge at an early age, if you bring them to the garden, show them the seed, have them plant that seed and watch that seed grow. Give them a book to journal what they're doing, because this is now an assignment. And being in an assignment, after they grow this food, they have to do the blessed harvest. From the blessed harvest, they learn to make value-added products from it, and they have to taste it along the way so they know the difference between store-bought and homegrown. And this is what you did. Now you have to go show your parents, let your parents taste what you did, and have them create a recipe that they can take to their parent and share with them. I keep saying, you have to make it fun, because they'll keep coming back. They'll want to do this. And that's what you want. You want them to want to do this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, the question that I had, that we asked to share with us how you cultivated your plant medicine knowledge and your overall sense of healthy living, staying balanced. Did an ancestor or living elder guide and mentor you? Please share these experiences with us and how it led you to be on the path you are on and the work that you do. Sister Dorothy Barker or Sister Iyalode, which one of you would like to answer that question first?
Well, what my grandmother taught me uh, was in measuring, and that's why it helped me to sew. And when I first started to sew, I did not have a yardstick. So she had taught me that from the tip of your nose to the end of your pointer finger was 1 yard. And so that's how I began to measure my cloth so that I could start sewing. And the same thing with the elbow, how do you get a half yard or whatever like that? So those were some of the things that I learned from her. But I also learned that when they did the tobacco and they took the tobacco off the stick, and I started to count, she started me to count, and she said, get a dozen of sticks. And then she told me to get a baker's dozen. And so that's why I learned to count and to put my sticks, and she would tell me how many inches long. And she said, use in your finger to your knuckle to tell me how long she wanted those sticks. And then to make the loop or the knot. So when she taught me crocheting, so to make that loop on the end of that stick, and then you will start to wind that thread. And that thread was used to crochet in the winter when it sat beside the fireplace or the heat or whatever, to make doilies, to make sheets, to make quilts and curtains and just little things that they learned to sell so they could live off the land. But also that same thread, we were tied together. She would tell me how many knots to put in that thread. And when they got ready to plant their bell peppers and their tomatoes, we would take that string and to take the tobacco sticks or the sticks that we found sturdy enough. And she would use that to string up the tomatoes, because she said, if they hit the ground, they're going to rot and you won't have any tomatoes to can. And so you got to keep them up off the ground. And so the tomato, like she said, is just like the tobacco. It has gum, just like a tobacco. And so to get the tomatoes to continue to grow, you had to suckle them, just like you broke the suckles off of tobacco. And so those were some of the things that we use today, because we do grow tomatoes, and we have to suckle them, and we have to cut the sticks with a sawmill, or we buy the sticks to stake the tomatoes up so that they can grow and we can have a good crop. Now, in that garden also, as I was telling you about the sage and what we could not plant close to each other away, if you put your cucumbers, I always pronounce them wrong, but your cucumbers and your squash, certain vegetables you can't get because I don't know the pollination, but it goes over and you have that flavor, that taste into that other vegetable. And so we were taught to maybe you go 2 rows over. Or if you didn't have like spaces, you put that at the end and then you put something else in between there. And then how you would come in with your stalks of corn, if there were empty spaces, you fill those spaces with the seed. And she taught us, like, is this a hill or we just gonna, okay, if you don't have a tractor, and most of the women then, if the husband was away working for that other man, or they would have a hoe and a rake, and she would show us how to. She said, okay, take this hoe and this drag, watch me. And we would make just a little ditch, a little good, and then come back, and you're going to count 1 seed, 2, is that okay? You got to go back because you miscounted. You're going to have too many seeds. We won't have, and you're going to have to pull up and do that double work. So those are the things that grandma taught me. But she also taught me, and grandpa, that we did not have, and I'm glad that we didn't, all the chemicals when they planted tobacco. And everybody was talking about cutworms, and they didn't have enough chemicals or whatever to stop the cutworm. So Papa, as we call him, had Epsom salt, and he would put Epsom salt in a barrel. And can you draw your water up at night? So when you draw that water up, it is cold. The temperature is cold. So in the morning, when you get ready to go set your tobacco or to plant your plants from the garden, you aerate. You shake that barrel and you shake that barrel, and you get all of your Epsom salt into your water. And then when you drop your plants, you drop your water. Then you have less root. The cutworms won't come in and cut the roots up because the Epsom salt is there for that. And so we can use that same thing today instead of using all these chemicals.
Mhm.
And so by me being the first grandchild called Joe, I was right there with grandpa and grandma all the time. And I was that sponge. There was no wax in my ear. And sometimes they told me nothing in between. I had an aunt, I was just stick this through your ear. It's nothing in between that. So we grew up with love. We grew up with fun, but we grew up knowing work. And we also grew up knowing that whatever you do, we were 4-H leaders, so you want to make the best better. But instead of giving 100%, we knew that we as Blacks had to give 110, 125% in order for us to be productive and to survive. But those were just some of the things that we were taught, that we honored our father and mother. And so by Papa being out working, so we tried to wait for him to eat. But by me being the first spoiled grandchild, I would always get something given to me before he got there to eat. But making that table look enticing for the people in the family was one of the things that was instilled to us. We ate at the table. The conditions of your community, of your family, it was discussed at that table, where it was either white potatoes or white rice, or so that was white, and you had your turnips, and you had your rutabaga. So those were your starches, and so you had your white and your yellow. Those colors were pretty, but you also had your collards, and you had your cabbage. You had your we didn't know what kale was then, but it was collards and cabbage. And so we had our colors for our food. You either had your brown fried chicken. So mama could cook chicken, as you say, every day, and you never got tired of chicken because it was a smothered chicken. Fried chicken, that was on Sunday when that fat behind preacher came to eat for the fried chicken. So you had that. You had pastry, all of those things that we had, because you learn how to wring that chicken neck and to make that dish, if that was all that you had, until the cow or the hog got to the weight where you could sustain your family and help the family down the road. So that's what I learned. And then the dessert part. When Papa would finish eating, he would get his cup of coffee or a cup of tea. There was always some meal pudding there. Everyone said, "What is meal pudding?" So it's meal, it's sifted 2 or 3 times, but you got your egg, your sugar, and your vanilla flavor, that flavor that we had to use for perfume when we went to church. So you had all that. You would have a meal pudding, you would have a bread pudding. That's all the biscuits left that didn't get eaten that for a couple of days or whatever. There was always buttermilk. So if there wasn't any, as they say, sweet milk, we cooked with buttermilk too, because we had to churn that. But after the supper meal, there was a dessert. And over that dessert, I always sat at the table and then say, at that particular time, it wasn't, it's a molasses or molasses pudding. We had that. And on Sunday, as I said, we would have a chocolate cake, have something with some icing on it. But with that cup of coffee and that pound cake and all the sweets that we have, a sweet potato pone or sweet potato fluff, whatever, it was who in that community was going through hard times, who in that community was about to get their land taken, or who had gotten beaten or raped, whose daughter was sent off. And we all thought that, well, that's not, but what I do today, it still go along with that. We never knew whose child was what. We thought that this child was that parent was that child. But it was a child that was taken in. And then that food that we grew and what they taught, we still in our family, we adopt children. We keep everybody's children, we keep them fed. And so the medicine, the plant medicine that we had, it went into the nourishment of our community's bodies along with our own. So that's it.
Thank you. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for taking us down that memory lane. I remember some of those stories, particularly wringing the chicken's neck and the fried chicken and the fat preacher. So I had a couple of preachers in my family.
Yep.
But a couple of things I wanted to mention that were really ring for me that you said is that you would eat the animal when it got to a certain weight and that you knew what was in it. I know Sister Melvin, I think Iyalode said the same thing, that feeding, you knew what you were feeding the animal. The animals were all free range, and you did not just raise it to hurry up and kill it and eat it. It was actually almost like a pet, wasn't it? And you nurtured it. It was like this interesting relationship that that you took care of it and it took care of you, and you used every aspect of the animal, and that's something that's not done today. And also the foods that you use, can you just briefly mention some of the herbs that you use to season the foods with, which were also healing herbs?
Well, your rosemary,
Mhm.
you know, that's healing too. Your rosemary tea. We had red pepper the cayenne pepper we grew, and we dried it also. And that was crushed, and she didn't crush her knees, so yeah, we rolled it with the rolling pin or with the glass, and we stored it in glass. And we hung it up until we used that in stews, and we used that. Grandpa liked to put a little bit over his greens, but it was used in our cooking, the red pepper, and in our sausage when we got ready to prepare the hog. What else was there? Spearmint and peppermint, upset stomach, menstrual cramps. We had peppermint tea that was gathered also, and everything needed to be so it could dry gathered before the frost hit it. We also I think it's coming up now, we had the poke salad.
Mhm.
We didn't do the berries, but we did use it for dye.
One of
but
my favorite
to
plants.
wash that poke salad, you got to wash it, as they say.
Mhm.
It's the poke salad.
Yes, the poke
Okay, we had to wash
plant.
that until it was no more green. Right. Uh-huh. And we got a dose of that. We got about 3 servings of that in the springtime to clean us out from
Yes, to
being
clean you
stuck,
out.
the wood heat, and they say it's thin. So we got that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Sister Dorothy, thank you so much. And I love garlic and onion and all of the herbs. We could just go on, and there's some other questions here that I know we are coming up on our time where we're going to have to transition to the question and answers. Gail, can you give me a time check, please? But this next question, Iyalode, I'm going to let you answer first. And you can weave in some of the other questions that I had asked. So how do you commune or communicate, bond with the plant spirit medicine? Do they guide you? Do they call you to them? How do you know how to care for them instinctively? Are there special things you do to maintain this bond? Can you talk about this magic, and please share with us how we can develop this connection? And I know it's a personal thing for everyone. So Iyalode, we'll start with you.
They guide me, and then they talk to me, not talking, but I can't explain it. It's a spiritual thing. They come to me like I can be at one of my sites and I'm not feeling very well, and there are people there. I don't want to deal with the people. I want them to go away. And certain plants seem to know that, like the comfrey seems to know that. In the during the season, the chamomile, I have a lot of chamomile in all my sites. They seem to know that. And the what is it? The what's the tree? Ginkgo biloba. That's a good one for me because um, my brain needs um, testing all the time. So I do a lot of ginkgo biloba, but they seem to do a certain sway or whatever, and I know it. And I turn around and look, and I'm like, okay, let me get it together. And the kids have told me, you talk to yourself a lot. I said, I'm not talking to myself. I'm talking to the plants. And they look at me like, okay, but there's just a certain way. Like I don't get depressed. So I can be really down or something, and I'll go to a site and all the movement there, the bugs moving around, the birds singing, and I can just be uplifted. I can just be uplifted. And it's a wonderful
Mhm.
feeling. It's just a wonderful feeling.
So what you're saying is that like the ginkgo biloba tree, it gets your attention by swaying, and
Yeah,
almost
it's
like
really,
saying like, hey, Sister Iolode, you need
yeah.
some of me because of
It,
this.
it stays for a minute and then it stops. And I
Okay.
said, okay, I get it. And
And
that's
what does the
always,
chamomile do to you? What is it when you go by the chamomile? What are you
it
feeling?
sways so I can smell it because the German chamomile has well, I don't know if it's a better odor. I don't know if it's better, but I don't really have any Roman chamomile. I have German chamomile, and it just sways, and I get that aroma, and I start making sachets of chamomile, lavender, rosemary, sage for
Okay.
people. Yeah,
So it's like you have to really be intuitive and
exactly.
go into a different zone to really commune with that energy and look at the
Exactly.
signs. Look at the signs.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you, Iolode. I'm going to pivot. I love that word that the young folks use. Pivot. I'm going to pivot to Sister Melva now. Miss Sister Mia, let me try to unmute you. Where are you?
Already unmuted.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay, and now can we pin Sister Mia?
yeah, for me, it's grounding. When I go out there, I look at all the colors and I look at all the different greens and I absorb it. Now, if I'm in one of those modes, like she said, I get whiffs. Certain herbs will give off whiffs to you.
Right.
And when they give you these whiffs, you take a deep breath,
Yeah.
you breathe out, you take another deep breath. I call it your woo sign. And then by that time, either a bee or a hummingbird is around me somewhere. And if it's one of them young bees and it starts acting a little crazy, look, you don't act like this. You don't come around me like that. You better go somewhere and go talk to your folks and figure out how you're supposed to come around me. And so after that, I'm fine. I am fine. And at any given time, I'm out there in that garden and something happens. All I do is just look around at the colors. And I just reposition my feet and just breathe. I take a good breath, give a good, I'm thankful. I'm giving thanks. And after a while, I'm quiet again.
Mhm.
So you have to breathe all the beauty in. When I was young, I used to, and when I first started understanding what scrolls, why I was doing scrolls, one of the scrolls was, allow what tree have you made for me? What is the new color of the flower I will see? And so when I go outside, I look around to see what's new. And every time I go out there, there is a new something. And I give thanks for that new something.
Beautiful. And next time, we'll definitely need to have more time to talk about your scrolling. But thank you for that wonderful wisdom. We are getting close to the time, amazingly, and it's just gone on. But you know, there's always the future. There's time. I look at life as one long moment. So the last question for all of you, can you leave us with parting words of wisdom, some what I call Sankofa-losophy about what we need to do to prepare for future emergencies, whether natural disasters or whether society breaks down, surviving pandemics, immune boosters, preventative healthcare, whatever comes to your mind in regards to that? Can you give us some words of wisdom on that point? And since you're here, Sister Melva, we'll start with you, and then Iyalode, and then Sister Dorothy. But if we can keep it a little shorter this time, that'll be great.
First, you need to start saving for a rainy day. And a rainy day is your lights may go off or anything. Put your food up. Collect enough water, and it's never enough water. You have to have water. You have to have an emergency kit for your health. Build up your immune system. Keep it on point. Know that you are what you eat. So what you put in your system, it may not be good for you, so you need to do another practice. Make sure you have echinacea, black seed, pardiarco, and things of that nature. There's a black seed oil, but in emergency, you can't carry that oil. Get you some seeds. Coriander is also good. Hawthorn is good for your heart, hawthorn berries, garlic, things of that nature. Those are things that you need to have always in your arsenal.
Thank you, Sister Mia. And you showed us earlier this little great solar water purifier. Do you have it there? Can you talk about that for a second? It's so important because water is life, you know. I need to unmute you. Wait. Hold it. Wait a minute. She's giving some good wisdom. I'm looking for her name. Gail, can you help me out here? Can you unmute yourself? Unmute yourself. I am not, here's her name.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can now. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. In a disaster, water is key. And this is called a WAPI. It's a reusable water pasteurizer. And you put it in some water. When the wax rises all the way up and is what do you call it? It's no longer solid. Your water is pasteurized and you can drink your water. Now, wherever I go, it's always kept in my wallet. Now they have different WAPIs for families, but that's just a single WAPI for me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I think we're going to have a session at some point on using all of these types of survival gadgets and my favorite, solar gadgets. So we don't, you know, we can be sustainable at any time. All right, Sister Melva, thank you so much. And I'm going to go on to Sister Dorothy and then Sister Iyalode. Sister Dorothy, let me place pin. Let's see, there we go. Can you leave us with some parting words of wisdom, some Sanko philosophy about how to prepare for the future?
How to prepare for the future. I mean, the way I see it is we have to get still, we have to meditate, we have to pray for wisdom, knowledge, patience, and understanding. And then after we do our prayers, we have to learn how, because some people can't cope with all of the natural disasters and everything, no internet, no electricity, whatever. So you have to steel yourself that I can do this, and how to take in water where you can have a continuous supply of good, safe water by saving it in glass jars instead of the plastic, where it's going to leach. And if you don't have the good plastic, is to save and sanitize and keep your jars in a place. And you know, it's know it's coming, then you put your water in, and it won't hurt to put in a drop of vinegar or a drop of lemon juice in it to keep your water fresh. We want to stay hydrated, but I think that, you know, that is the best thing that I could say. And she went through all the herbs and everything that you needed to have there. But whatever it is that you take to keep your system viable, that you need to have an extra set put in a place where it's handy, it's quick, that you can grab and you can get away. But the first thing, it always comes with your meditation and your prayers, and hope, and which would help you to be sane so that you can survive these incidents.
Thank you for saying that. That is like foundational key number one, to stay cool and collected and grounded. And the water is so important also. That whole energy vibrates, you know, with us. And let me go back to what you said earlier. Get you some land. Get you some land. Church up and get some land. All right. Sister Iyalode. Thank you, Sister Dorothy. Sister Iyalode.
Okay, I want to say something about the land. You don't have land, you can always use pots, in a bathtub, whatever, to grow stuff until you get some land. Okay, saving seeds. We should all be saving seeds. I have a room full of seeds. An herbal first aid kit, water. I'm going to be doing a what do you call it? A workshop about all the plants that contain water.
Ooh.
Like yucca and all that. We need that. That would be something to have those kind of plants growing already. So you have that. And like Melba was saying, some of the herbs, hawthorn berry for the heart. I had a problem with my heart 3 years ago, and I've been continually using that, and I'm fine. Lavender, plantain, echinacea, garlic, comfrey. Yes, and that's it. Water plants, yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. And can we get information on your workshop of plants that contain water?
Yeah, I will.
I definitely would like, because that's essential.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Can we also eat those plants?
Yes. Most of them you can eat them.
Great. Yeah. Do you want to tell us about when it's going to be?
Probably in August, because I'm waiting for the pandemic because I don't do well doing hands-on workshops on Zoom. I just
I can dig it. We want to see you and touch you.
I don't do well.
So how are you going to give, how can we get that information? You're going to give it to Farms to Grow, or do you have a website? Yeah,
I have a website that I'm doing. I'll put it on my website and I'll give the information to Gail.
Okay. So now we're about ready to close the event. Are there any other questions from the audience, or even, you know, things that you would like us to cover next time, suggestions on how we can make this better for for everyone, because we plan on continuing these elder wisdom circles quarterly. And also one coming, let me just say this, sorry, which is my passion is sustainable gadgets, living sustainably without any electricity, compost toilets, you know, getting the water, all of that stuff. And Sister Melva is going to be doing a workshop on that too, which I'm so excited about. So thank you everyone for coming. I'm going to turn it, and the wise women elders, I look forward to learning from you. And
Do you
growing
all
with you.
mind unmuting yourselves for just a couple of seconds so we can give a graceful thank you and applause to our wise panelists?
Thank you.
No, I can't.
Thank you.
I just want to thank,
Thank you.
oh my goodness, Michelle, Mama Melva, Mama Ilode, Mama Dorothy. I cannot thank you all enough. We have been blessed beyond words. Just the sheer presence of you all being in this space has uplifted us to a whole nother level ourselves of wisdom that I'm excited about passing on and sharing. It has just been some incomparable wisdom and knowledge. And like Michelle said, we plan to do these quarterly, these circled with all this knowledge and information with our wise women and who are community resources. They are community leaders, and we want to make sure we have all of that information available to you. I don't want to say too much. I just want to thank you all again. Michelle, Mia, Yolode, and Dorothy. I want to thank our sponsor, Scratch and Peck, for supporting our project. Thank you, Elaine Smith, our illustrious executive director that manages the technology for us. We have a social media team. I'm not sure if you all saw those nice graphics, but we have a social media team that does an amazing job of making sure that you all of our guests, and look just fabulous. And I will say, please donate to the film Rhythms of the Land. Once the film comes out, you will see Mama Dorothy Barker. She is featured in the film. I interviewed Dorothy. That's when I met Dorothy in 2012 in Oxford, when I went to their farm and met Philip and Dorothy Barker. So please donate to the film. And we are declaring that the film will be screened no later than November of 2021. We're still working very hard all the time to get it done. We will have some of these resources on the website. Dorothy sent over some information. She has a book. Yolode has a webinar coming up, and want to give you all the links to her organization, Cure Me. And Sister Melva is also going to be at our Freedom Farmers Market. We open July 17th. Stay tuned. She'll be doing a solo workshop. And Michelle's book, She's So Modest, Working the Roots. You can also find Michelle at the Freedom Farmers Market with consultation, and she'll be able to, her books will be available as well. So follow us on Rhythms of the Land. We have our next event, June 26th. It's that last Saturday in June. And for that event, we're doing Black opera. And we're going to have Matthew Jones, tenor, who has performs with the Cleveland Opera and the Cleveland Academy. And yeah, we just want to thank you all. There's just been so much information. We will have on the Farms to Grow website the resources. Sister Melba, well, the team actually developed a list of 10 herbs, and Sister Melba got us started. And so those resources will become available within the next few days on the Farms to Grow website. It'll have resources, and we'll continue to add to that. And again, stay tuned for future Wise Women panel with wisdom keepers, wisdom sharers. You know, we will do more of this celebration of their knowledge. Thank you all again. And we'll let you carry on with the rest of your evening. Thank you for joining us. And again, we cannot thank our guests enough. One more round of applause.
Yes.
Thank you. Stay tuned. We'll see you next month.
All right. Thank you.
How long was that?